Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I am your host, Samuel. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire country. And it doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing to diagnostic lab, you name it. You will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 5% performer within your role in sales, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel. And today we have with us another special guest, and she goes by the name of Mignon Blanc. And this young woman is very impressive. She's currently in a maternal infant care product sales specialist role at GE Healthcare, and she's based in Los Angeles. And she actually got into that role from a commercial leadership program, a 2-year rotational program that teaches in-depth sales and marketing and is based in various cities across the U.S. She's been a powerhouse since she's joined that organization in the western region of the U.S., and she's generated over $25 million in revenue with the time in her role. And I am not going to share any more because this episode is another exciting episode, and it's another person that's doing amazing things in the medical sales space. And she brings a lot of light to a role that's not that common when you hear medical device sales. And by that, I'm talking about maternal infant care product sales. So for anyone that's wanted to be in medical device sales and wants to be closer to the infant care type side of things, then this is the episode you absolutely want to make sure you listen to. As always, we do our best to bring you innovative guests that are doing things just a bit differently in the medical sales space. So enjoy this episode. Thank you for listening, and I really do hope you love this interview. Hey, Mignon, how are we doing today?
Hello, I'm doing well. Thank you so much, Samuel, for having me today.
Absolutely. We are excited to have you on the show. So why don't you tell the audience who you are and what you do?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Mignon Blanc, and I'm currently a product sales specialist with GE Healthcare, and I currently sell our maternal infant care line of products.
Okay, so let's get into that. Tell us a little bit about what it means to be in your space. What exactly are you selling, and what's the layout? Like, who are you calling on? Who are you talking to? Give us a little insight.
Sure, absolutely. So I would say first thing about being in this space, you have to be passionate about moms and babies. I can't imagine who isn't. So everyone pretty much checks the box, I would say. And I'm so excited to be in this space, and I wanted to be in this space in the first place because I have I would say a soft spot in my heart for advocacy as it relates to women and children of color, because there are so many disparities in the industry. So what I do is I call on the labor and deliveries and NICUs in all of Los Angeles. If you're familiar with the area, it's San Luis Obispo down to Torrance.
Yep.
It's pretty much like a 4-hour span from top to bottom of my territory. And I sell GE's infant warmers, incubators, fetal monitors, and phototherapy. So I'm working with nurses every day to help them learn how to use our equipment. Sometimes I'm working with moms with our equipment that is physically on the patients. I'll be in the room telling them, this is what we're doing. This is what we're monitoring. This is how we're supporting you. And it's just a very collaborative environment. And when I'm in the NICU, I'm also working with nurses, but I get to see the little preemies inside of my incubators, and it really makes everything worthwhile. Seeing my products keep the smallest people in the world alive.
That is amazing. Okay, so I want to get into nitty gritty here. Why don't you walk us through each of those products and where they fit in caring for babies?
Sure. So I'll start with our incubators. So on our incubators, we have two. We have a regular incubator, and then we have an omnibed, and that product line is called Giraffe. We decided to go with Giraffe because they really care for their young,
Sure.
and it's a very supportive and loving environment that they provide for their young. And that's what we're doing essentially. So with our Giraffe incubator, everybody I'm sure has seen some sort of incubator in their lives. And I will mention that GE currently holds the lion's share in this market. So 9 times out of 10, if you're going into the NICUs, you're going to see our equipment. You're going to see one of our giraffes.
Okay.
So it's essentially a microenvironment that provides the perfect temperature, humidity, I would say sound. It also blocks out sound, just overall the perfect environment to continue on the growth. So we have babies as small as 27 weeks,
Wow.
some even smaller than that are in our beds. And gestation period is 40 weeks. So
Okay.
we are trying to get that baby to at least the starting point of where they should have been at the 40-week point.
Got
So
it.
what we want to see is healthy babies. So we're
Yeah.
providing them with the perfect environment to grow, develop, and to put as little stress as possible on their little bodies.
Okay.
So our incubators, it's a closed, sealed environment. In our omni beds, it's also a closed, sealed environment. However, the top raises up and becomes a radiant warmer. So
Okay.
when certain procedures are being done, um, that heat is still being centered on the baby, and there's not a chance of um, the heat being lost or a stark difference in temperature change.
Got
Because
it.
the slightest degree in temperature change can mean life or death for
Wow.
these little babies.
Okay.
So it's absolutely critical that all the bits and pieces and dials and things that we have on our beds are completely calibrated and are, I would say, perfectly tuned because, like I said, we are taking care of the smallest babies.
Absolutely.
Um, so that's giraffe. And then
Okay.
we have our pandas, which
Okay.
are our warmers. I don't know if you can notice an animal theme going on.
I did notice that.
Well, with our panda warmers, it's actually a radiant warmer that's typical in labor and delivery. So as soon as a baby is born, heat loss is one of the biggest things that can cause stress to the baby. So as soon as they're born, they're put on one of our warmers, and it's a flat surface, and it has, I would say, resuscitation capabilities to help, of course, help the baby breathe after they're born, and it's a critical time
Okay.
to have those resuscitation capabilities. So warmers typically in labor and delivery. Other items that we have in the labor and delivery are our corometrics monitors.
Okay.
So Coro 259CX, you don't need to know that, but that is our latest monitor that's currently in labor and deliveries. So this is a fetal monitor that records, um, it has ultrasound, toco, pulse oximetry, pretty much all of the necessary capabilities to monitor mom and baby throughout the labor process.
Okay.
And attached to that, how we take it a step further, we also have our Novi wireless monitor. So this is doing all the same things that that Corometrics monitor is doing, but it allows mom to move around the room. And it's
Got it.
also waterproof. So if she wants to
Wow.
take a shower, go in the bath, she can do that, and it's still continuous monitoring.
Okay.
And the Novi product is also great for high BMI patients because those, I would say, external and conventional ultrasounds and all the transducers, I would say, are too, I would say, skilled at recording, I would say, those heart rates and stuff through higher BMI patients. So
Okay.
Novi is perfect for that. Other things that I sell, phototherapy equipment.
Okay.
So babies typically have, well, some babies are typically jaundice and have high bilirubin in their blood. So we use phototherapy to help, I would say, combat that. So it's a bright blue light that shines
Mhm.
on our babies. They kind of
Okay.
look like little baked potatoes uh, when they have our lights on them. But it's to help them, continue to grow and be the best and
Wow.
healthy person they can be.
Wow. Okay. So with all these different products, do you have, I'm assuming you have a team. You're not just working solo on this.
Yes, I certainly have a team. I have a clinical team for the NICU, for
Okay.
L&D, for pre-sales,
Okay.
post-sales, I have quoting support, sales support throughout the entire sales process,
Oh,
booking
wow.
orders.
Okay.
So
Okay. So
yes, yes.
let's get into it. So, what I want the audience to understand is, what is the team layout, and then what is your specific role on the team?
So team layout. I would say I'll start with myself first because it's
Okay.
easier to think about myself and then the environment that's
Sure.
around me.
Absolutely.
So with my specific role, I'm responsible for I would say, creating those relationships in the NICUs and L&Ds, as well as directors who cover both women's and children's departments.
Mhm.
So I'm in charge of making those relationships, helping them as it relates to providing them with quotes or information about our products, understanding their, I would say, buying cycle. So if they do have new equipment that they need, helping to be a collaborative partner to help them purchase equipment at the best time for them.
Okay.
So I'm that connection point between GE and the customer as it relates to our maternal infant care products. So I'll walk you through the sales cycle because that'll show you how different people come in.
Absolutely.
So if I have a customer that comes to me and says, "Hey, Mignon, I would like to learn more about your giraffe omnibed. We're thinking about upgrading our current fleet. How can you help me?" I would say, "Okay, great. Let's set up a demo.
Mhm.
I can have one of the omnibeds shipped out to the hospital, and I'll also bring in some of my clinical specialists so they can help address some of your nurse's clinical concerns. Because since I'm a rep, I am not able to train or
Mhm.
provide specific clinical advice. That is
Okay.
supposed to be our clinical teams who are actual RNs who have special certifications. As a rep, I'm only able to teach you about the machine and how it works itself.
Okay. But you are the first point of contact.
Yes, I
Now,
am the
I
first.
I noticed you said when they find you. What do you mean by
Mhm. So I would, the person who is in the position I'm in now before me was in the role for like 30 years.
that? Okay.
So they may have had a relationship with him and then didn't need equipment for a long time and then reached out to somebody and said, "Hey, can you point me to your giraffe rep? I need questions on giraffe. It used to be
Got it.
this guy, but I'm not sure who the new person is." Or it's somebody, since GE is such a big company, we have ultrasounds, MRs, CTs, X-rays,
Right.
just we're all over the hospital. So
Right.
if somebody sees one of our products, they're most likely going to ask one of our reps, "Hey, this is totally not your area, but I need help in labor and delivery. Can you put me in contact with the GE rep for that?"
Got it.
So that's how leads can come to me. They can
Now, is
also
that how you get the majority of your leads, or are you out there hunting for leads as well?
So what I will say, I am in a special situation to where I
Okay.
have the most market share in my
Wow.
territory. So it's a
Wow.
lot of
Okay.
farming the relationships that already exist
Exist. Okay.
and helping to maintain the current installed base that's in my territory.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Walk us through the rest of the sales cycle.
Yes. So go in, we do a demo, I bring in my clinical support. Um, Everybody loves us. They want GE. So what do I do next? I provide them with a quote.
Mhm.
And I can either quote myself, which I'm trained to do,
Mhm.
or I can reach out to my quoting team and I can
Okay.
just, "Hey, I need a simple quote for a giraffe for this hospital. Make sure to include these terms and these accessories. Send it to me." They'll send it to me in 15 minutes or so, maybe
Wow.
even shorter. Then I
Wow.
forward it off to the customer. And if they have the money at that time, or they may have funding later on, they'll send me a purchase order and I can book the order myself, or I can reach out to my sales support team and just say, "Hey, I'm on the road. Can you book this order for me? Here are
Sure.
all the forms. Um, just let me know when the confirmation is done." So once it's booked, um, then I start to work with my project managers and our factory team so we can figure out a schedule of, depending on what our lead times are, when this can be shipped out and when the hospital is ready to receive it. So once all of that's scheduled, it's a waiting game because, with all the supply chain constraints that we're facing right now, that does pose an issue.
Sure.
So it's a lot of waiting depending on which product they're purchasing. So once um, the product is created by the factory and it's out the door, I work with my project management to coordinate tracking and I update the customer. "Here's your product, it's on its way." Once it's delivered, then I work with my field engineers
Mhm.
and we work to install the products. I don't necessarily have to be on site for that, but I love to because it's a great way for me to understand my products on a deeper level
Sure.
as I'm sitting there screwing it in or rolling it through the hallway. It's just
Mhm.
another reason for me to get into the hospital, which that's the best part about it.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, that's pretty much start to finish how it is. And if there is an issue with invoicing, because usually invoices are sent afterwards, I reach out to accounts receivable.
Okay.
So that's pretty much all the people that I deal with.
So all those touch points, it sounds like, once they've agreed to receive the product, it's kind of out of your hands.
Yes.
Okay.
It is. It is pretty much out of my hands. It's like the best time of day for me is when I get the purchase order.
Got
But
it.
that is only, I would say, half of the battle as it relates to my compensation. So we're compensated 50% on orders. So when they physically um, send me the purchase order, and then 50% on sales. So when it's actually delivered,
Got it.
or revenue, I would say. So orders and revenue.
Okay,
50%
so
orders.
then you it's out of your hands, but you're still monitoring the process because you want to ensure that it gets delivered.
Yes, and I'm still, I would say, compensated based on when it gets delivered.
Okay.
That's the second half of the, let's say, the compensation pool. But it is challenging because that has nothing to do with me. But that's the way it is. And I haven't
Sure.
had too many issues because it's like if you're making your number in 2023, you sold all of these products, they're likely all going to be delivered in the next year.
Okay.
So it
Wow.
it's while it's out of my control, it is something that usually takes care of itself, I would
Right,
say.
right. So it works. Okay, so then is your role one where you know what, I've been a product specialist for a little while. I want to go to the sales side, or you know what, I want to see if I can go to the clinical side. How is that? Are those moves you can make from your position, or it's not really set up that way?
Yes, and I can give you a little bit of a background of where I was and where I am now, and then where I can expect to be.
Sure.
So when I first started with GE, I entered in the commercial leadership program fresh out of college.
Okay.
So that program, or the CLP program, is a 2-year rotational program where every 6 months you move to a different city and you learn a different area of the business.
Oh, you
So I'm
got onto
originally,
the fast track. Look at you. All
yes,
right.
exactly. So I'm originally from New Orleans, but GE moved me out to LA, and it's like, okay, this is where I want to be. I'm good. I'm having a good time here. Um, so throughout that program, you have to, well, towards the end of it, you have to specialize in what industry you want to go into per se.
Sure.
But throughout it, it's teaching you how to be the best GE salesperson. And I decided I wanted to be an imaging account manager. So I learned about our MRs, CTs, X-rays, nuclear medicine machines, all sorts of stuff. But towards the end of the program, there were no opportunities available for IAM in LA. And for me, I preferred the location over the position.
Mhm.
So I went after this role called the Deal Hub Architect.
Okay.
So that was a pretty amazing role. So in
Sounds like
that position, I strategized the largest deals in the Western region of the United States. So
wow.
deals that were $5 million and up, from Montana to Maui. I did the project management. I helped coordinate financing, coordinated
Wow.
the pricing, the overall proposal to the customer, and I was essentially the person to work that deal from start to finish to bring it over the finish line. And
Sure.
I was in that role for just a year, but I helped close over $25 million in that position. So it was pretty good. It was pretty good. It was
Absolutely.
a good time.
Absolutely. You were killing it.
And in that role, it was more so commercial operations. I was supporting sales as opposed to directly selling.
Sure.
But I worked with region presidents, market vice presidents, account executives, and sales reps such as myself now. So while I was in that position, it was great, but I felt like I was making my company richer as opposed to enriching myself. And since I was internal, I'm like, I'm just supporting, the teams around me. Within GE, I want to be in front of the customer. That's
Gotcha.
why I joined this industry. So
Yeah.
I can help people, help
Absolutely.
patients, and
Hmm.
be in front of customers and actually be a collaborative partner outside of my company.
Right.
So I decided to go back onto the sales side, and that's when I went into the role that I'm in now, Maternal
Okay.
Infant Care PSS,
Wow.
or MIC PSS for short, since it's such a long title. Um, so yes, that's where I am now, and that goes to show you the versatility of where you can go in
Yeah.
GE,
Yeah.
and where I plan to go next. Or I wouldn't say where I plan to go next because I don't want to box myself in. For those who may be listening, I work with,
And
but
they are.
yes, A possible role for me next would be an account executive position.
Okay.
So that is sales, but you're more so managing the relationships on an entire hospital-wide level. So
Okay.
instead of just focusing on maternal infant care,
Right.
you are all of GE at X hospital system.
Got it.
So you're managing those C-suite relationships, trying to create those larger bulk buys, all sorts of things like that.
Now, will you get to stay in LA and do this?
I could. I
Ooh,
could.
well,
Yes.
that's right up your alley. Well, that is fantastic. Thank you for walking us through that. So then, let me ask you this question. If someone is green, they're listening to this episode and they're like, oh my goodness, she is literally doing what I would love to be doing if I was to get into medical sales. Is that a position they can get into coming from a different industry? Or is there a gateway position that they need to entertain to get to what you're doing now?
So I've actually encountered this situation a couple of times, as far as people saying, oh, your job seems pretty interesting. How do I get into it?
Mhm.
So if you currently have med device, med equipment sales experience, then you should be fine transitioning into this because the products are relatively easy compared to an MRI machine.
Sure.
So that curve isn't as significant. And if you know how to sell, you know how to sell. You can sell ice to an Eskimo essentially. So that shouldn't be too much of a transition. But if you're not coming from a strong sales background, then you're going to have to take a little bit more of a creative route. If you're coming straight out of college or a 5-year MBA program, then I would suggest doing a leadership program, like I mentioned before. Or if you're later on in your career, but you don't have any sales experience, maybe start with inside sales. And then from there, prove your value, um, just find ways to stretch yourself and collaborate with I would say, industry that you want to be or the business that you want to be in.
Mhm.
So that way they know your name. And when a position becomes available, then you would be the first person to go up for it.
So
Um,
if you have if you have sales experience in a different vertical, not medicine at all, but sales experience, then this position that you're in now is viable.
yes, I would say yes. I per se am not a hiring manager, but if you do have strong sales experience in general, I can imagine that you can make a transition.
That's exciting.
Yes, but it
Exciting.
is one of those things. It's all about spin selling. And when you're in that interview and talking about your transferable skills, make
Absolutely.
sure to mention how your experience in elevator sales directly translates to maternal infant care. And also speak about your passions. Why are you passionate about
Mhm.
this? When I mention the career and why I'm in here or why I'm in this role, it's because I'm passionate about women and children, especially in the area that I'm in. As a Black female, there are a lot of odds against me when it comes to having children and as it relates to healthcare. I've written articles on it and done the research, and the numbers are scary.
Absolutely.
So me being in this industry is just one little way that I can be a Black voice in this environment and try to make some sort of change and difference.
I love that. I love that you highlighted that. And I actually want to, change the direction of the conversation a little bit. Being a Black female in this space, what have you seen? Have you seen a difference in Black women in this space compared to other ethnicities when it comes to the care, when it comes to what's going on? Have you seen any kind of difference?
So I will say, as it relates to the current position that I'm in now across the country, this role has been historically white men in this position. Obviously, that's a problem because of the patient population that we're directly dealing with. And
Sure.
sometimes when I'm going into patient rooms, people are comfortable with me walking in there as opposed to a man walking in the room. So that's one of the direct, I would say, issues that I've seen. But in this role, it's been historically white men. We are now a lot more diverse. There's a lot more women in this position, so that's great. That was one of the first things that I brought up when I moved into this role. It's
Sure.
like, do we not see this as a hindrance? Something needs to be done. I'm just one drop in the bucket. We have to fight. That's me, a little freedom
Sure,
fighter.
sure.
But as far as it relates to the role, we're getting better.
Mhm.
As far as the patient population and the customers that I'm dealing with every day, it's a wide range of people.
Okay.
especially being in LA. It's so diverse. I've
Mm-hmm.
gone into rooms where patients only speak French, and
Wow.
I've had to leverage my 3 or 4 French words that I know.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yes, or I'll go into a room and they only speak Spanish, and I'm like, okay, I have to be creative on how I'm gonna talk to them. I've definitely been in a hospital where I've had to help people out with my little bit of Spanish that I know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's definitely a diverse market as it relates to patients. As it relates to customers, I would say it's getting more diverse, and I have found a great advantage to being a minority in this role and working with minority customers
Okay.
and having them see a familiar face. Oh, I can trust her. She knows what she's talking about
Love
because
it.
she understands where I'm coming from.
I love it.
So I've been able to build a deeper relationship with my customers as it
Mm-hmm.
relates to that because I'm empathetic to what they're going through. I know what they're seeing every day, and I'm able to speak to them in a way that it relates to um, their concerns as
Right.
minority healthcare leaders, let's say.
Sure. How much patient interaction do you have?
So it really depends on what I'm doing in the hospital. I was recently installing some new core metrics monitors that I was mentioning in the labor and delivery. And there were 6 that I was replacing, and one of the ones that I had to replace that was broken or about to break was in a room that already had a patient in it, and they couldn't move the patient out. So I had to go in the room, take all of her leads and transducers off, and swap out the machine, hook them back up, and the whole time I'm talking to her, calm down. I know you don't hear a heartbeat
Wow.
right now, but that's all
Wow.
right. Let me plug
Mhm.
you up, and then we'll keep moving. Or there are some other instances where I go in to check patients or check a hospital's equipment, and it may be in use on a patient, because that's the best way for me to see how well it's working. So I walk in, see the patient. Hi, how you doing? I'm a rep. I'm just checking the equipment that you have on you. No need to be alarmed. And in some of those situations, I'm working with the nurses to troubleshoot and to help them with the assistance of my clinical specialist. We're working with them saying, okay, maybe you should place a transducer here or
Mm.
there. This is how you have better numbers, better readings. And the patient will be just sitting there, just chilling as
Wow.
we're
Wow.
helping. I haven't had too many issues or instances where a mom is just in labor going crazy. Have I heard that through the door? Yes. Have I
Wow.
heard a lot of expletives? Have I had a monitor passed to me covered in blood before? Yes.
Wow.
Um, but that's all fun stuff to me.
Sure.
So
Sure.
if you're in
Abs-
this industry, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable sometimes.
Absolutely. 100%. Wow. Okay. So, what would you say is the biggest challenge in your role?
The biggest challenge in my role, so I would say it's specific to me and GE. While we have amazing products in my product line, and we are the industry standard, I would say, across the country, when you are so good, it starts to become the mentality of if it's not broke, then why fix it? You know? So I'm selling my equipment, which is top of the line, but everybody's familiar with it now. So sometimes I feel like it's hard to continue to grow and expand my business because I don't always have something fun, new, and exciting to share. But that gives me an opportunity to be creative in other ways. So being a strategic partner as it relates to, hey, this is your current installed base. Here's how I can help you upgrade it over time, or here's I can help you. Here's how I can help you extend the life of your equipment, different sort of things like that. But that can sometimes be a challenge of not having a new product all day, every day to
Mhm.
sell or the new shiny thing.
Sure.
Um, but it just forces you to be creative in other ways because there's a lot of business out there. You just
Mhm.
have to find it.
Wow. Okay. So then, give us the top 3 things that make an amazing product specialist. Like people thinking about this career track that you're on, whether it's someone that wants to move from a different vertical into what you're doing, or someone from outside the industry that wants to do what you're doing, what would you say they need to be able to bring to the table that would make them a high performing product specialist?
Yes. So Number one would be adaptable. Every single day is going to be different.
Okay.
Sometimes I wake up thinking it's going to be an easy day, and then I found out that 21 of my beds were delivered to a hospital way before schedule, and they have nowhere to put them, and I have to figure out what to do.
Wow.
That was a scary day, but I fixed it, because I'm adaptable. I figured it out.
Sure.
So being adaptable and being able to roll with the punches is definitely number one.
Okay.
Number two is having a high say-do ratio. If you say
A
you're going to do
high,
something,
a high what ratio?
say-do ratio.
Say-do ratio. Okay. Okay.
Yes. Yes. Having a high say-do ratio of whatever you say, make sure you do it.
Got it.
Follow up and follow through. A lot of my business, I accredit it to me simply picking up the phone or stopping by a customer and saying, "Hi, hello, how are you doing?" And they
Gotcha.
say, "Oh, I need something." And then I follow up promptly.
Mhm.
That is a lot of my business. It's just
Okay.
following up and following through with my customers.
Okay.
So, one, adaptability. Two, high say do ratio.
Mhm.
And three would be positivity.
Mm.
And I say positivity because I didn't realize how important it was until I had the manager that I have now. He is the most positive, radiating person that someone can meet. And
Wow.
having that sort of energy as a boss or having that energy of a manager,
Mhm.
it makes my job so much easier. And
Believe
it
it.
makes me want to be positive. It makes me feel
Absolutely.
good about
Mhm.
I'm going to be able to achieve my number because we're going to follow X, Y, and Z steps. If I'm ever freaking out, say for instance, like this, where all the beds were delivered super early,
Right.
just take a breath, calm down. It's going to work
Mhm.
out. We're going to figure it
Mhm.
out together.
Love it.
So having that calm, cool, positive energy and mentality, it helps you to, I would say, pace yourself and be very good at your job. And I work in the happiest place, usually the happiest place in the hospital.
Sure.
Other areas in the hospital are treating sickness. Mine is bringing life into the
Mhm.
hospital. So
Mhm.
you have to have that positive attitude that, you know, all your hard work is going to pay off for sure. So adaptability, high say do ratio, and three, positivity.
Oh, I love it. You have it so concise. Now you can't drop that story twice about this bed issue and not tell us what happened. How did you solve that issue?
Yes. So this was it like 3 or 4 weeks ago?
Oh, this just
I
happened.
was Yes, and I was out. I wouldn't say vacation, but I was out for a speaking engagement in New
Sure.
Orleans,
Sure.
and I thought it was going to be a smooth day. I get a call from my customer saying, Mignon, so a truck just pulled up with 21 pallets, and I don't know what to do with it because I told you I don't have space for it. Why are they here right now? I told you I don't want them now. I'm like, okay, don't worry. Let me just make a couple of calls and we'll figure it out.
Okay.
So I call my project manager and I am slightly freaking out, but I have my sister in the background. Calm down. No, be positive. Calm down. Just relax. It's gonna work out. So I'm on the phone with my project manager. I'm like, hey, so you remember those beds that we were supposed to schedule for 2 weeks from now?
Right.
They arrived, and the truck driver drove all the way from El Paso, Texas, and
Wow.
he cannot turn back around. What are
Wow.
we gonna do? So she made a couple of calls and was able to find space in a warehouse to put all of the beds there and store them until they were ready to be delivered a couple of weeks later. So simply making those phone calls and knowing who to call and just being, I would say, being a collaborator and being a partner with your customer was the most important thing to help me get through that.
Makes sense.
Because I could have not answered the phone because I'm out of office and he could have seen
Right.
my out of office and
Right.
disregarded it.
Right.
But because I answered the phone, stopped everything that I was doing when I was out of town, completely out of pocket, and stopped to figure out a solution and to collaborate with my team to get this done, that's why it was successful. That's why we were able to get it done.
Absolutely.
And I was also able to have that revenue recognition because it was delivered. So, there are a lot of positives to it, but that was, I would say, the latest freak out that I had in the role because how would I describe it? How big the bed is? It's as big as maybe a little bit smaller than a golf cart.
Wow.
So imagine 21 of those showing up at your
Yeah,
house
no,
or
that's
hospital
serious. Yeah.
with nowhere to put it.
Wow.
So yeah, that's just one small issue that we were able to get around. But staying positive certainly helped me get through that.
Fantastic. That is fantastic. Okay, so how demanding is your role? Talk to us a little bit about social life. Do you have a family, husband, wife, kids? How do you make your social life and personal life work with the demands of this position?
Yes. So I will start by saying the previous role that I had as a deal hub specialist, deal hub architect, excuse me, that role was very demanding.
Mhm.
I was working on everybody's schedules. I was working on very small timelines with high amounts of work and high amounts of stress and high amounts of visibility. I
Mhm.
had deals that the region president was saying, Mignon, I need these numbers yesterday. Where are
Wow.
you? Where are they? Or I
Mhm.
have the CEO of the company saying, hey Mignon, I saw that big deal that you're working on.
We
When are you
want
gonna need it done?
to.
You
Right.
really need for all of the different numbers that are associated with it. That was a high stress position.
Mhm.
The role that I'm in now, I don't want to say a breeze, but it's pretty good. It is pretty good. And that is attributed to the hard work that was done prior to me and the foundation that was laid into this territory before. So
Got
I
it.
would say if you're going after any sales position, do your research on the health of the territory.
Mhm.
What happened to it in the past? Do you have high market share? Do you have low market share?
Sure.
Do you have mostly competitors that you're
Sure.
going to be up against?
Mhm.
That's all going to play into how your work life balance is in whatever territory that you're going into. I was told that I had a high performing, high volume territory, and that's what it was. It has been delivering ever since. So that has been really, really reassuring. And it's almost like I'm farming on a day to day basis of, okay, what do you need? I can send you a quote. I can collect that PO for you. I can make sure everything is delivered. I'm not necessarily going out and prospecting all day, every day.
Okay.
Um, but that is because I just started this role. So I'm still in the reactive stage as opposed to the proactive
Sure. That
stage
makes
of
sense.
going out and growing my territory. But this particular territory has allowed me to do more of the farming stage early on. So I didn't have to, claw and fight and eat ramen noodles in the beginning of it because I wasn't making any money. But as far as my work life balance, that's, I would say, a little snippet of it is it's pretty good. I do not have a husband, but I
Okay.
do have a longtime boyfriend. He'll
Okay.
be my husband soon. That's not a problem.
Fantastic.
But no kids, so I get to enjoy the fruits of my labor for
Okay.
sure. Not that people who have kids don't, but I have my own McDonald's money. You know
Oh, that
how
is
they.
hilarious. So let me ask you this then. So then, are your hours your own each day, or is it like 8 to 5 is when you're working?
So 8 to 5 is when I'm on call, I would say. That's
Sure.
when my phone is on. That's when it's business all day, every day. And between 8 to 5, my customers can call me. I can call them. My coworkers can call and collaborate with me. 8 to 5 is where I set my boundaries,
Okay.
and that's where I have my work phone on.
Okay.
But in between those hours of 8 to 5, sometimes I'm at customer sites, sometimes I'm working from home, sometimes I'm running errands in the middle of the day to the people watching. Not all the time, but
All right.
occasionally, in between meetings, I am taking care of other business.
Sure.
I also have the flexibility and freedom to work remotely elsewhere. So, say for instance, if I'm out in another place doing a speaking engagement, I'm still able to be on call and still be able to support my customers. And when I say on call, I'm not a doctor, but my customers can call
You're
me about any
available.
and everything. Yes, I'm
Right.
available.
Right. So would you say that weekends and nights, if in some cases you are accessible and you make yourself accessible?
Weekends and, well, nights during the week, yes. Weekends, absolutely not.
I should
My
say
rule of
absolutely
thumb,
not. Okay.
I don't charge my phone on Friday afternoon, on my
Got
work
it.
phone. I don't charge my work phone on Friday afternoon. So if
Got
it
it.
dies, it dies.
Gotcha.
And I am not available until maybe Sunday night when I charge it back.
Hey,
And
we want
when
the facts and the truth. Okay. So then, and then when you say speaking engagements, are these company related, your own thing, and or what are you referring to when you say that?
Yes, so now we're getting into the fun stuff. So aside from my current position with GE, I am heavily involved in the National Sales Network. So if you haven't heard about it, do your
Oh,
research on it.
you know, my audience better know what the National Sales Network is. We you know, that's actually in our program. That's actually you have to join your local chapter. That's actually a requirement. So yes.
I love that. So all of the people in LA need to be a part of the LA chapter. Have to be. Okay. So I'm heavily involved in the National Sales Network, and I joined when I was a sophomore in college. So
Sure.
that was 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, 2017. Nope, 2016. It was 2016.
All right.
Um, so when I was a sophomore in college, I joined, and usually I was the youngest person in the room, networking with people who were a lot more senior to me, and I joined the Louisiana chapter. So always give props to my home chapter. Um, but started there. I went to the student conference and the professional conference, and I just continued to build my brand and network as hard as possible and make sure that I would say just somebody that everybody knew and somebody that they can rely on. And so then I started to be asked to, oh, hey, could you speak at this event, or can you speak about your experience in the student conference? And then that turned into, can you host, in essence, 30th anniversary event in Miami? And that turned in, can you help launch the first ever chapter in the United Kingdom? Yes.
Wow. Look at you
And
moving.
now, yes, and now I'm the board chair of the newly formed Early Career Development Advisory Board.
I love it.
So I lead a team of 8 individuals who are super amazing. And we're all tasked with growing and engaging with early career talent across the country. So that is people who are students interested in this career, and that's undergrad and graduate, people who are 1 to 5 years out of college or 1 to 5 years in their career, as well as people who are interested in transitioning into the sales side of things. So that can be somebody who was in the military for 30 years and then they decided, I want to go into sales. So they still fall under the early career bubble. So yes, my speaking engagements are mostly with the National Sales Network. Sometimes they are with GE. This summer, I'm going to be speaking on Capitol Hill for this girls' science camp called Girls Inc. They hold a STEM camp that GE puts on, and I'm going to be one of the panelists on Capitol Hill in July. So
that's exciting.
I love public speaking. It's my jam. So when I am not working with customers and generating
and doing podcasts.
I am doing public speaking or giving back to my community in some sort of shape or fashion.
That is absolutely fantastic. Last question. Well, we have more questions, but wrapping up, let me ask you this. You clearly knew about the medical sales industry when you were an undergrad to get into a program that kind of fast tracked you through a company. When I talk to a lot of guests that have been in the industry 10, 20 years, back in the day, there just wasn't this kind of knowledge that younger people have access to now. Tell us a little bit about what you really got wind of when you were in college that let you say, you know what, I know I want to be in medical sales, and I know I want to work for an organization, and I'm going after it before I even graduate.
Sure. So like most freshmen in college, I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied biology pre-med, and I chose that major because yes, I wanted to be a doctor, but I also wanted something that was going to challenge me and be difficult. So I continued on, and then sophomore year, I hit organic chemistry, and I thought, this is a little harder than I thought.
Organic chemistry gets everybody. It got me too. That's when I said, wait a minute, what am I doing again?
Right. It's like I hit a little wall, and I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to pass this class. Maybe being a doctor isn't something that I really want to do. So I started to ask myself, why do you want to be a doctor? Is it because you think you're supposed to do this, or because you just want the money? or because you're passionate about it, but not really. Like, come on, be real with yourself. Why do you want to do this?
Sure.
Um, so I stopped and thought and was like, okay, that is a lot of school. And there is just so much politics associated with being a doctor nowadays, especially in the country, in the US. So I thought, okay, let's pivot a little bit. Let's see what else we can do, how we can still help the community, how we can still be in a lucrative career, and how we can go through less school and still be just as successful.
Absolutely.
So that's when I stumbled upon medical sales.
Wow.
And I would ask around. I was always that person who was with my parents or online. Hey, what do you do? What do you do? Oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool. So I remember that my mom's really good friend, she worked for Merck and she did pharma sales. Okay, I'm going to talk to her and stay close and see what she's talking about. And she was a part of NSN in Louisiana. So she said, oh, well, I'm a part of this organization called the National Sales Network. I think they have a student conference. I'm not sure. Maybe you should apply. You can even join the local chapter. Okay, I don't know anybody. And I'm
Wow. So
what,
you got
19
the
or something?
early introduction to exactly what happens in medical sales, and that sets your pathway.
That set my pathway from that was the jump. Nice. Thank you to Miss Monique. Miss
Love
Monique
it.
started my career.
I love it. Okay. All right. So in wrapping up, I'm going to give you a lightning round. You have less than 10 seconds to answer 4 questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. All right. First question. What is the best book you've read in the last 6 months?
Best book that I read in the last 6 months. So I will say that I like true crime. So I actually, well, this isn't true crime, but I like a murder mystery. So
Okay.
I just read this book called Thursday Murder Club. Every time I would get in a plane, the person next to me would be reading this book. So I just had to buy it because I'm like, I love murder mysteries. I like reading. Let's see what happens. Fantastic book. Highly recommend if you want a book
Wow.
to
By
help you
who?
escape.
By
So
who?
I
Okay.
forgot the name of
It
the
sounds
guy.
like a unique name though. So what's the
Yes,
name one more time?
Thursday Murder Club.
Yeah, I'm sure that's as unique as it gets. Okay.
Oh,
Second question. Best show or TV show or movie you've seen in the last 6 months?
best TV show or movie that I've seen in the last 6 months. Oh, Snowfall. The wrap up of Snowfall. Fantastic. Highly recommend.
So Mignon, I just started, and I don't know what rock I've been hiding under, but whoa, I had no idea. Yeah, you know what? That show
And
is mind blowing. Good stuff. Okay, best restaurant you've had or best food meal you've had in the last 6 months.
best meal in the last 6 months. I feel like I ate something that just knocked my socks off. Well, I went to a restaurant this week
Okay.
at this place called Hanuman Thai Eatery. So it's a Thai spot.
Okay.
But I've had this curry. It's called kai soy or I don't know, something like that. But it was so fantastic. I'm all about a coconut curry and it had the
Okay.
best noodles in it, the perfect amount of spice. It
Oh
had
wow. Okay,
arugula.
wait. What's the name of the restaurant?
Hanuman Thai Eatery.
Okay. And then the item was a curry dish.
Yes, it was a
Okay.
curry dish.
Okay, we're gonna try to get that in the show notes, everyone, so that all of you that are listening that are in LA can visit this spot because I definitely will be going. And then last
Yes, and
question.
it's in Newport Beach, so
Okay,
not too
Newport
far.
Beach. And then
Mhm.
last question. What's the best experience you've had in the last 6 months?
I wonder if London was in the last 6 months. It was in October, November of last. No, it was in October of last year. I guess that'll count. I'm gonna throw it in a bucket.
We'll include it. Go ahead, run with it.
Yes, we'll include it. My time in London was absolutely fantastic. I made some phenomenal friends that will be, I would say, my family for the rest of my life. It also showed me the power of networking can take your career off leaps and bounds. Because as I mentioned, I started off as a little student, a part of the National Sales Network, and it brought me all the way to being a board chair and then to being in London launching the first international chapter. So network, 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 and go to London if you haven't gone yet.
Mignon, it was absolutely wonderful having you on the show. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom with us. We can't wait to see what amazing things are coming from you as you continue your career. And again, thank you for being on the Medical Sales Podcast.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
And that was Mignon Blanc. Again, if you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, then you already know what I'm going to say. If you want to be closer to infant care, that's something that excites you. That's the type of role that you really want to connect yourself to and be a part of, then visit evolveyoursuccess.com. Take a look at our program, the Medical Sales Career Builder. Fill out the information, fill out the application. You'll be connected to one of our account executives and you will be interviewed to see if you're a good fit for our program. And if you are a good fit and you do pass the interview, then we are going to get you exactly where you want to go. So again, I am not going to belabor this point. You've heard me say it often enough, and I will continue saying it. I just appreciate that you continue to come back to get the information that you need to make informed choices about where you want to be, where you want to take your career, where you want to take advantage of full opportunities. So thank you for listening to the Medical Sales Podcast, and make sure you tune in next week for another episode. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and also how to masterfully navigate your career to executive-level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews.